housemoney.media. Welcome to Real Estate Maximalist. Today's episode is unlike any other we've done before. Today's guest is Tanya Brown. She's a note investor from Maryland who has built a $1.2 million portfolio. Do you know what a note investor is? Basically, she invests in mortgages. She may even own the mortgage of your property. She'll mention that she's tried multiple forms of real estate investing until finding note investing, which matched her lifestyle better. It's just a reminder that there's many different ways to invest. You just have to find a way that works for you. Welcome to Real Estate Maximalist. I'm your host, Alan Corey, and I've been in real estate investing for over 20 years. I have the Alan Corey team, a group of real estate invested-minded agents in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have built a portfolio of several hundred properties, which gets me excited about today's guest. Tanya, thanks so much for being here. Tell me a little bit how you got started in real estate.
Certainly. Well, thank you so much for having me. So I started in real estate about 12 years ago, off and on, and I tell the same story. I started off wrong. I know you're not supposed to have family in your rental properties because they feel that how can I put this? You have a grace period to pay your mortgage. And I was relying on them. I still had a mortgage, so I had to pay it. I was paying out of pocket to continue the mortgage to go while they were paying when they felt like it. They were the tenants.
Got it.
So I was making double payments. So I was paying my mortgage and then I was paying that mortgage on time. And then they would pay me when they felt like it. And so I kind of got discouraged behind it. So anyway, I moved on from that and I was kind of off and on for about 12 years, just doing a little bit of everything. So I flipped, I tried wholesaling, but that's really hard work for me. And so I wanted something that was more passive. And so I was looking into tax liens. I said, I can get into tax liens. That should be really, really great. And as I was looking into tax liens, I came across note investing. And I said, what is this note investing stuff? What can I do? And I was looking at it and it was like, oh, you can collect people's mortgages while you're just the everyday person. I was like, no, that doesn't happen. That's not real. But it's really a real thing. And even when I started looking at it, people were like, oh, no, this is fake. It's like, no, it's really something real. And so I started delving into it and looking more into it and seeing what I could do. And that's when I realized I could get into a lot of trouble if I just did this myself. Because doing the flips, I just, went to meetings and I talked to people, I read books and I was online and I was able to do flips, same with wholesaling, although I did take a training. After the training, it was like I could do wholesaling. And it's same with running your numbers for a rental property, but with note investing, there's so many different avenues and different things that can come up. I said I could get in trouble. So I went and I found a mentor, took a training class, and then I just delved right into it. And I've been doing it now for about 4 years. I have built a portfolio actually within the first 2 years, a $1.2 million personal portfolio of mortgage notes. And I tell everybody the 10,000 foot view of mortgage note investing is simply you becoming the bank and you're just collecting passive income from monthly mortgage payments.
So it's my understanding when you buy these notes, you get them at a fairly deep discount, correct?
Yes. So most of them we get, and you can get a note for anywhere from, it's a performing note. So performing notes are notes that are doing well. The borrower is paying. And so then you have non-performing notes, which the borrower has defaulted. They stopped paying.
Why would a bank want to sell a performing note?
That's a great question. And so if you think about it, banks are really in the business of lending. They're not in the business of holding rental properties or holding properties. And so they actually make more money selling off the loans and making a commission and then going right back and lending again. And then in this environment that we're currently in, like a few months ago, we were seeing, mortgage rates, 30-year mortgage rates at 3% and 2%. It was the lowest that we had seen. And now we're looking at 7% and 7.5%. And so they're selling those off and saying, why do they need to hold on to a 3% interest mortgage note when they can lend at 7%? And so it's the benefit of just being able to, the velocity of money, to be able to continue to lend, and become liquid to lend more money. So that's why they sell them off. Usually for performing notes, you can get them anywhere from 85 cents on the dollar up to par, meaning par is the face value of the remaining balance on the loan. For non-performing notes, you can probably get them around 50, 60, 65 cents on the dollar. But there's a workout that's involved also.
What's a workout?
So the workout for a non-performing note would be you might have to go in and foreclose. But what's the difference between you being the individual lender and the bank is that the bank sees you as a number. So you're 30 days, 60 days, 90 days late. And then they have to go right in and start foreclosing on you. For us, we go in and we try to find out what the problem is. So you get a non-performing note, you may have to go in and say, hey, borrower, what's the issue? What's going on? They were hanging Christmas lights, they fell off the ladder, and they haven't been able to work for 3 months. And that could be the issue, in which case we can say, we'll work with you and we'll modify the loan or help you catch up or do whatever. If that's the case, we'll work with them. Otherwise, if they're just bad borrowers, they don't want it, or something has happened where they just walked away from it, we'll try our best to do a deed in lieu, in which we're trying a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Just sign the deed over to us. We'll stop the foreclosure, and we won't have to go through, your credit being made bad behind it. Or the last resort, the absolute last resort, is to go through foreclosure. We foreclose and we take that property back.
And then you can renovate it, flip it, rent it out, sell it.
Exactly. You can do anything that you want to do with it. Usually I just want to go back in and put someone else in there and turn another note. So that's the
Oh, so you'd want to do a seller financing.
Correct. Yes.
Got it. Because you still have to pay a mortgage even if it's vacant, right? Even if you foreclose. Yeah.
Well, it's usually paid in cash because this is a cash business. So usually you're paying everything in cash and you're paying the unpaid balance of the loan. So it's not like you're actually purchasing the property, right? You're purchasing the paper associated with the loan on that property. And it's full cash. You're paying straight out. It's not like you can go to a bank and say, can I get a loan for a note? And then you wait 30 days. As soon as you put your offer in, you're ready to move and pay cash for that. So you own it.
Okay. So where are you based?
I'm based in Maryland.
Okay. Maryland. Are you only buying notes in Maryland?
No, we buy across the country, definitely. In fact, I don't own one note in Maryland. I tried, but I don't own any yet. I plan on getting some, but I don't own one note in Maryland.
Where do you go to buy a note to see what's for sale? Is there a negotiation process? Can you walk me through that?
Sure. And so we get ours they come in what we call tapes, and tapes are literally just Excel spreadsheets of assets that are available. And we get them from either banks, hedge funds, other brokers, and other note investors. And from there, we just scrub the tape and we select assets. Then we do an underwriting process to make sure that it's a good asset. And then we go through the entire process of purchasing the note. But there are online sources also, like PaperStack, Notes Direct, in which you can go online and look at individual assets that people have for sale. And then you can go ahead and work through that. Is there a negotiation process? Sometimes you put in an offer, they may counter, and then you can counter back. But there's not too much of that back and forth because 9 times out of 10, there's maybe 2 or 3 people in line for that note. So you want to make your highest and best offer. And if they come back with a counter offer, we rerun the numbers, see if it works. And if it doesn't, then we just either pass on it or we'll go with it.
So many questions here. So how do you know what hedge funds to reach out to get on their list?
It's about networking, to be honest with you. It's just going out there and networking. And so we've connected with multiple different individuals, and we've actually just gone out and talked to people. We go to these conferences and we go out and just really build relationships because that's really what it's about. I have made inroads with some community and small banks, but you're not going to get consistent inventory from them. You might get 1 or 2 things every other month, or you might get some commercial inventory. But outside of that, it's just building relationships. It's connecting and going to these conferences where you have the banks and these mortgages and the hedge funds and these other conferences that we go to just to meet and greet people, to let them know who we are. And sometimes it takes a while.
Are you looking at, like, you're Googling the address that's behind the asset to see what it's probably valued at? Is that what you mean by due diligence?
Definitely. Yes, we have a strong due diligence process. So we look at the asset, we make sure that the value of that asset is more than what we're naturally purchasing that note for. We go through a realtor, we make sure we get the BPO done. We look at the area also. We make sure that the median income is above poverty level. We make sure that there's at least 5,000 people living in that general vicinity so that we have a big enough pool that in case we have to take the property back, we have a big enough pool of people that will want to purchase it. We look at big businesses and banks to make sure that they're there, because if the businesses are there and the banks are there, the money is there and it's going to continue to flow. So yeah, we do a strong underwriting process.
And so I guess you're buying, like, some notes are at 3%, some notes are at 10%. It
Hmm.
all varies and you can
Correct.
filter and choose what you want, right?
Yes, correct. In some
No.
cases, you can cherry pick, and they'll allow you to pick which ones that you want off of the tape. But in a lot of cases, it may be an all or nothing. So you have to take down the entire tape, and you might have, I don't know, out of tape of 10, 20, you might have 4 or 5 that are really duds, but then the other 15 can float those up.
How often are you dealing with foreclosures in this situation?
Not too often. I mean, maybe if we get a tape of, I don't know, a tape of maybe 20, 25 non-performing notes, we may go through full foreclosure on maybe one or two of them. Not to say that we wouldn't start the foreclosure process. We may start the foreclosure process, but it doesn't go all the way through because they'll come to the table eventually and either pay us off or then we'll have to go through the foreclosure.
How receptive are the owners of the property hear from you?
They are not very eager. And really, it just depends on the situation. And another thing is, we don't deal directly with the borrowers. We use servicers. And so, servicers are kind of like the property manager for a rental property. So, they actually service the loan for us and they talk to the borrower on our behalf. So, we don't really engage with the borrower, but we operate through the servicer to do it. And if they're good borrowers, then they're excited to hear from us because we want to work with them. And that's what they really want because they want to stay in their home. But if they're bad borrowers, then they start to avoid us. They start playing games. I had one, he's called and said, "Oh, I'm at the bank. What's my payment? I'm going to get it set up for automatic payment." Oh, what? Breaking up. And it's just, games. And so when you have that, it's like, forget it. I'm just going to go straight to foreclosure.
Yeah,
But you give
yeah.
them a chance.
So when you buy this data tape, are they usually spread out across the United States, or they have the same zip code, or
Yeah, they're spread out across the United States. It's not like you can ask for, and another thing is we don't have to buy the tapes. The tapes are actually offered to you and you can just go through. And if it comes from a broker, you may have to pay a fee for it, but generally you don't have to purchase the actual tapes. But they could be a wealth. It could be a mixed tape. It could be performing. It could be non-performing. It could be first position, second position. It could be anywhere across the United States.
wow, that seems like there's a lot to learn, a lot to manage. It
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 is.
seems, yeah. And so if it's an all cash business, I guess you're going out to investors and raising money to buy more and more of these?
Yes, indeed. We haven't started a fund yet, but we are working with investors through partnerships. And we also offer a training program. But we try our best to educate our investors and whatever it is or goal that they have, whether it's to build, passive income in their self-directed IRA, their education fund, or their health savings account. Whatever their goals are, we just try to educate them about the benefits of note investing and how they can put these notes into those funds and build passive income.
And so then you're doing quarterly distributions back?
Well, it depends. So if it's a performing note, then they're getting the monthly payments month after month. And because we're not in an actual fund, we don't do the quarterly. But if it's a non-performing note, what we do have is we tell them that they're going to have their money within 9 to 12 months. So you submit an acquisition. You own the note. You actually own the note and it's in your account, in your business name. And then we will do the workout for you and then turn around and you will get the payments off of it. We try to get it to reperform and then you will start getting the monthly payments off of it. If it doesn't reperform, then we work to cash out, get the foreclosure, and then we can work together on what the next steps will be.
Okay. So what's like an average, like if I was an investor and
Mhm.
I have two options. I can either go and do this myself, right? Or I could work through you and you're
Correct.
sort of a mentor and hand holding and manage everything. If I went through you, what sort of returns would I expect?
So we say on the conservative side, we're looking at a 10 to 12% return. Of course, non-performing notes have a much higher return than a performing note simply because you're getting it at a deeper discount and there's a little bit more, margin in it than there is in a performing note. So you can get upwards of 20% return just depending on the specific note and your risk tolerance. And if you're willing to have your money, held up in a non-performing note for at least 9 to 12 months.
Because that's how long it takes to foreclose someone.
Correct, correct. If we have to foreclose, yes.
You can't force someone to refinance. Like if they've got a 30-year fixed and they're paying on time, there's nothing you can do as an investor or owner of the note. You just have to honor the agreement, correct?
Correct. So if you purchase an existing note, you just have to honor that contract. But if they decide to refinance, that's good for you because you could just get a
Great.
payoff
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you turn around and go ahead and purchase another note with it.
Got it. What I see is sort of the maybe drawback of this is that you don't get any appreciation if the housing market's going up because
Correct.
you're just owning debt, right? That's
Correct.
collateralized on the
Correct.
yes.
Correct. So
Okay.
yes, you don't get that, and you don't really get many of the write-offs that you would get, say, with a rental property. But you also don't get the headaches that you would get with a rental property. I mean, you're not chasing toilets in the middle of the night, and you're not dealing with contractors with fix and flips, and so forth. So there are the benefits, but you do not get those tax benefits that you would get from writing off a rental property.
So I like how Tanya's being completely transparent here. Just like every investing strategy, there's pros and cons. The pros here, obviously, you're not a landlord. You're not at the beck and call of people. It seems very passive because you have a servicing company that's going to be dealing with the borrowers and making sure that they get a non-performing note performing again. And also, investing in notes is just like investing in real estate. The uglier the house, the vacant ones, the ones that are overgrown, need a lot of work, way more upside. A lot more money can be made in those properties. And the same thing applies for note investing. The non-performing ones, believe it or not, are actually going to make you more money because you get them for much cheaper and you could turn them around and make them more valuable. I love this about note investing. Very, very similar to residential real estate investing, doing a house flip or fixing up a property, building that sweat equity. And Tanya is doing this in notes. Now, I want to ask Tanya, how much money does it take to get started in this because it's such a cash business?
So we work with you at any stage. I've had people tell me that I just have $5,000 I want to put in right now. And I say, I can work with you with $5,000. And what we would do is a partial. And so partials are where we sell off portions of the monthly payments to someone else. So I could have a note that has 260 months of payments on it. And I can sell off for your $5,000, maybe 25 or 30 of those payments to you, and you start getting those payments. That's where you can start on the lower end, the 5 to 10,000. If you have 20 to 25, we can actually put you into a full note. It may be non-performing, but we could discuss your tolerance and what it is that you're looking for. But usually 20 to 25 is a good solid way to get into your first note. We go up to $100,000 and we actually go up to $5-6 million if you have it. And we have commercial notes. We're trying to move a $24 million Marriott note right now. And so we have that inventory. But for people who are looking, the individual investor who's looking to do, the small 5, 10, 15, we can work with anything where you are. We try to meet you where you are.
What does move a Marriott note? Does it mean you're trying to raise the money to buy it?
They're selling the note, and we're
Oh,
trying to get a buyer to actually purchase the actual note. So we have a buyer who purchased one. It was a few months ago. It wasn't a Marriott. It was another one. It was a great buy for him. So we found another note and provided it to him. So we'll see. It has not gone through yet, but they're
yeah.
interested in purchasing that note.
What's the average, I guess, note size that you're working with?
The average would be around 45, 50,000. And so they're not your A, B type homes where you're in, the greatest suburbs with the $200,000-300,000 homes. They're really more in the C areas and sometimes in the D areas. So you're looking in the 40, 50,000 range of the actual note. The property may be worth 100, 120, $130,000, but it's for that area. And people sometimes they'll say, I just want a note in this beautiful area. It doesn't look great. I don't want that one. It's not about the look of the property because you're buying the paper. And we have to remember that everybody lives somewhere. It might not be where you want to live or where you live now, but it may be that one individual, that 20-something-year-old who, just left one of the projects or something, and they got a good job and have an opportunity to become a homeowner, and now this is their next step, and you're providing that opportunity for them. And so don't look at the actual property. And we do look at the property just in case we have to take it back to make sure that the value of it is worth, what we're paying. But don't look at it as, I want the most beautiful home on the block. And,
Right.
because you are still providing an opportunity for someone.
Do you ever sell the notes after you acquire them?
Yes, definitely. So there's a great market out there for people who are purchasing notes. One of the greatest turnarounds is when you can take a non-performing note, get it to reperform. You're buying that non-performing note at 50, 65 cents on the dollar. You get it to reperform and you can resell it for 90 something. You can actually collect the payments for a year and then sell it off at 90, 95, or even par. So there's a great margin in buying those non-performing and getting them to reperform.
So again, the parallels to regular real estate investing, very, very similar here. And just imagine your retirement is collecting other people's mortgage payments. Instead of them writing a check to their bank to pay their mortgage, those checks are coming to you. That seems like a great way to retire. So I had to ask Tanya, is this sort of the idea? Like you can use this as a retirement plan?
Yes, you are. Indeed. I'm leaving actually my W-2 in August. I had to hit my 20 years because after that I hit my 20 years, they told me I could come back at age 60 and get deferred retirement. And I was like, well, that's just another stream of income. So we'll wait another 8 or 9 months and that'll be fine. But yes, it definitely can replace your income.
So you're 4 years into this. What
Mhm.
sort of passive income does that generate?
Depending on the notes. So some are $200, some are $300, some are $800 notes. So it's generating around $10,000.
Nice. And so you needed to raise 1.2 million in cash to buy that?
I did, but I used investors to do it.
Yeah.
So I took part of it in my retirement account. Some of it I had from other investments. I have an investing account. And then I just brought on other investors.
I'm trying to do the math. I wonder if you could do like a HELOC on your property to go buy other notes then those notes pay for your HELOC.
I have done that, yes.
That's
That's
awesome.
exactly what I did.
Oh, okay.
It has worked out perfectly and it's paying it back nicely, and I have no issues. And I'm actually doing a couple of other deals. Well, they're not note deals, but hopefully they will pay off the actual mortgage and I'm good to go.
So within your $1.2 million portfolio, you have what, 1,000 properties?
Oh, no, 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 no. It's only like 13 or 14.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
13 or 14 properties. Okay. Could you package that portfolio and
Yes.
sell so you have your own data tape and sell it out?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can
Okay.
sell it off.
Is that something, when would you decide when to hold or to sell it off?
I suppose if I found something that I would want to go into, I would sell it off or try to sell it off in order to go into something else. But right now, because the majority of them are performing and they're just doing great, I'm holding on to them.
What's the range of interest rates in your portfolio?
The average is around 8 or 9%.
Okay. Yeah.
Some of them, I
That-
have one that's like at 13, which is crazy. I'm not even sure how they got that one, but it was at
yeah.
13. But the average is around 8, 9%.
So that tells me that they're probably, maybe not the best credit
Correct.
because there would be a 3% right now. Yeah.
Correct.
So as we said earlier, note investing is a bit less hands-on than other forms of real estate investing, but Tanya has built a nice portfolio that is cash flowing about $10,000 a month. Wow. And she got really creative to finance it through her HELOC and other investments and raising money. So where there is a will, there is a way. And Tanya has found the way. And like every good real estate investor, they love to sit around the campfire, share their funny stories, their wins, the crazy ones. So I asked Tanya, how crazy does this world get in note investing?
We just had one in Richmond, Virginia. I'm telling this story. It was a quad and it had a hole in the roof. It was haunted and it was sat across from a cemetery. And so it looked terrible, but it was still a quad and it was worth they said around $90,000. We purchased the note for $10,000, but then we had to go into foreclosure. It took us spent about $5,000. So we were in it for about $15,000, and then turned around and someone nicely set it on fire for us. So it burned down to the ground, and we had got the insurance, and so the insurance paid off the $15,000 that we had already put into it. And then the worst part about it was that the city just kept calling and calling and calling. And I think that they thought we were friends because they kept asking us questions about our business. But essentially, they were saying, clean up the mess. And we were like, okay, we can clean up the mess, but we can't get a permit to demo the place for another 3 months. And they said, yeah, okay, we'll put a fence around it. We said, fine, we'll put a fence around it. So we put a fence around it. And then they continued to call. And we don't know why, because we're still working on it. But we just threw it on the market. And within maybe a month, it sold for $60,000. So the benefit was we got our 15 back that we outlaid, and then we got a payment of $60,000 just for this house because we paid $15,000 for it, all in all. And we paid for the ash. We didn't have to get rid of the demo. We didn't have to do anything. We just sold it as is. And so they bought the ashes for $60,000.
That's
And
awesome.
that's the benefit, though, is because, we're selling, you're getting in on the ground floor, sort of, and we're selling to flippers and we're selling to wholesalers because the margins are there. And when you get in on the ground floor as the note investor, as the buying the unpaid balance on the loan versus market rate, you have those types of stories and benefits.
Are these notes like seller notes, or are they always coming from like a bank?
No, a variety. Yeah, some of them are seller finance notes, and some of them have just been. Some of them you see circulating 2 or 3 times. I saw them 6 months ago, and here they are again on a tape. But they come from a variety of sources.
What are some things that you would absolutely avoid? So, if someone new looking into this, just like common traps, just to stay away from.
That's a great question. I would stay away from states that are judicial states right now immediately because you could have your money tied up for a while. And judicial states, if you have to go through foreclosure, can take a long time because you have to go through the court system. In New York, New Jersey, Maine, all of those states, you can have your money tied up for 2 to 3 years. So that wouldn't be my first note unless I have that type of money that I want tied up for that long. Make sure that you do your due diligence, because if you do not check those taxes or back taxes, or if back taxes are owed, and then if you don't find out if it was sold, because you can call a tax office and they'll tell you, yeah, taxes have been paid. But what they won't tell you is it was paid by someone in a tax sale. And then next thing you know, you're purchasing the note and it's a done deed. It's a done deal where it's gone, especially if it's a tax deed state, meaning that after they purchase it, it's done. You don't have a chance to redeem it.
So, walk me through the tax deed. If someone buys the tax deed, you don't own the property.
Correct.
Yeah. What?
Well, if it goes to a tax sale and someone buys that tax deed, yes, you don't own the property anymore. They now own it. But if it's a tax lien, it's redeemable. So they may have purchased it, but you have a year or two or however long that state says you have to redeem it.
So, if they've got the tax deed, then your mortgage, you can't come after them for the mortgage note.
Correct. No, they own everything. Yes. And so
That's
you've
just a
pretty much
wash.
lost your property.
Got it. So, I guess you just go phone calls, government websites, just checking the status.
Indeed, yes. So we call the county offices. We make sure the school taxes aren't owed, back taxes. We ask, has it been sold in a tax sale? And you can go online, but it's always, trust but verify. So go online, look and see if it's owed, but then call the office also. So we just make sure we uncover all of that. Any liens that may be on the property, we ask for those, whether it's, tall grass or abandoned cars that may have been left on there, and what is owed. So we uncover every stone. And of course, you pull title anyway, just to make sure there's nothing that you didn't miss overall. So, I mean, those are some of the things. I always encourage people that if they want to get in, get educated first, educate yourself, get a mentor, get somebody on your side that can help you out and walk you through it, because there's so many things that you can fall into and not necessarily know how to work it out. It's not a bad thing that you fell into it, but not having the knowledge of how to come out of it could be the problem.
This is all very interesting to me.
It's a great asset to add to your portfolio. I would say that it's great passive income. And I was looking at my my 401k, for example, when 2020 hit, the stock market went down and my retirement actually went up because I got a payoff immediately. As soon as everything started going down, I got a payoff and I got $13,000. And I was like, wow, this is nice. Everybody else is looking at the stock market and I'm just looking at what my notes are doing. And I got a payoff of $13,000. It went up. And then people started saying, oh, well, did you get a stimulus check? It's like, no, I didn't qualify for a stimulus check. But actually, I got multiple stimulus checks because people got them that had mortgages with me. And they took those stimulus checks and paid their mortgage. So there are benefits to being a note investor and being the bank, because I always say the bank never loses. No one ever gets over on the bank. You owe it. You're under a contract. You have to pay it. Otherwise, I get that asset. So there's just so many great ways of doing it. I never get bored doing it because there are people behind these notes and everybody has a story. And the benefit is you get to help those who want the help. And otherwise, you get a nice asset that you can make more money on.
So you mentioned that you had a mentor, and you mentioned again that a mentor would be something you highly recommend. Where does someone find note investing mentors?
They can come directly to me. I actually mentor individuals. We do have an educational component to our overall investment strategy or overall business, and they can come and learn. I have an online self-paced course, and I do teach live online courses. So you have me directly as an instructor, and then I just mentor people and help walk them through their first note. I provide resources. Or if they just want to get in and get that first note after the second or third note, they're on their own. When I say they're on their own, they have the confidence to continue, but I'm still there and I'm still available to provide resources and to guide them to look at things before they purchase. So what I'm trying to do is really build a community of note investors. And I have a monthly meetup. It's called the DMV Note Network. And we just get together and we go through, how do you do due diligence? What do you look for in a collateral file? How do you submit an offer? We go through all of those things so that they stay, current, and they stay among other note investors who have had these challenges that they may have had or may be going through, and can help them through it. So I like to say that my training is no bull, no upsells, just pure training and education.
And how do people reach you?
They can reach me online. I'm at peerharbor.com. That's PIERHARBOR, peerharbor.com, or tbrown@peerharbor.com, and also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Wow. Tanya Brown knows her stuff when it comes to note investing. This is how you can be an investor without dealing with tenants. You could actually be the bank. Did you know that you could be the bank? Follow Tanya for more information. She knows this business inside and out. If you're wanting to get in real estate without money, I've just launched the Broke Method course. It's 25% off. Use the code EARLY25 if you sign up before January 1st. Go to brokemethod.com or realestatemexi.com. Thank you. Also, give me a follow at Real Estate Maxi on Twitter. I love talking to everyone on Twitter. Thank you for all your kind words and your screenshots of podcast reviews. Keep them coming, or share this podcast with a friend. Both of those things cost you nothing, and it means the world to me, and I will keep bringing you more and more content each week as a thank you. This is your host, Alan Corey. You've been listening to Real Estate Maximalist, and I'll see you next week. Welcome to the Real Estate Maximalist After Party, where we don't talk real estate. We'll talk anything but real estate. It's just fun hangout time for me as I'm recording things, killing time, just sharing my thoughts. It's the last week of December. Looking back, what a great year 2022 has been, personally, professionally, and looking forward to what great things coming in 23. However, the biggest thing on my mind is New Year's Eve, because my Georgia Bulldogs are playing in the college playoffs in the Final Four. And it's funny, when I went to the University of Georgia, I didn't really care about the football team. And since I've graduated, I don't know why I care about the football team now, but I do, and I plan my Saturdays around it. Um, it helps that they're winning, and maybe that's it, because it's for 40 years they weren't winning, and so let me bask in this glory while I can. I've been in the city of Atlanta sports failures. The Falcons, they were winning 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and they lost. And that's the closest Atlanta Falcons has ever, done anything to me. And the Braves break my heart quite often, especially in the 90s. They made it to the World Series 5 times, and they won once. I've been set up with sports disappointment, so I'm glad it's New Year's Eve so I can actually be drinking while watching the game. So if it does go sideways, I can null the pain a little bit, And that's what I'll be doing, ringing in the new year. Hopefully it's a good way to end the new year with a win. Speaking of football, my experience playing football in any sort of traditional sense was in 6th grade. I thought I was awesome at football because playing in the neighborhood, I was the tall, skinny kid, and they would just throw Hail Marys and I would catch them all just because I was tall. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am going to be the best NFL player that's ever existed on this earth. So I tried out for football team in 6th grade. And, first time putting on pads and helmets and all that. And when I went out on the field, I looked huge when you have those giant shoulder pads on, even though I was a tall, skinny kid. And the coach doesn't look at me and says, hey, this is going to be our next wide receiver who's going to catch 1 million touchdowns. It's like, oh, this guy's going to play center and hike the ball to the quarterback. And I didn't really know what that meant because I'd never played in any traditional sense. So I did it. And then I realized quickly that basically my role is to hike the ball, get jacked by the biggest guys on defense, and I was just blocking for someone else to score touchdowns. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't get any glory. I get no touchdowns, and I get my ass kicked every week by these giant guys on the defensive line. This is not a fun sport. So my football career lasted 3 weeks, and I was like, maybe my aspirations were misaligned, and my skill set of myself was not an accurate representation of me as being a football player. So that's my football experience, but it's gotten me now to a place where I root for Georgia football on New Year's Eve while drinking beer and the twists of turns of life. And I call myself a fan, and life turns out funny that way. So go Dogs.